Welcome to the O'Neill Perspective, Politics, Power, and Policy, where we break down the latest in politics, dive deep into forces shaping our society, and uncover the policies that will make it all happen. Your host, Curtis O'Neill, is here to educate, enlighten, and entertain as we explore the world of politics with clarity and insight. Whether you're a political junkie or just trying to be
somewhere along the way, politics stopped being about persuasion and started being about punishment. We live in a time now where too many people do not just want to be heard, they want to be affirmed, they want to be validated, and in many cases, they want to be obeyed. And when you do not agree with them, it does not stop at the disagreement. It turns into labeling. It turns into shaming. It turns into cutting people off, and it turns into making somebody feel like they are morally defective just because they do not see the world the same way as you do. You see it as half full, they may see it as half empty, and vice versa. And let me say this plainly. If a friendship only survives on total agreement, that is not much of a friendship. If love disappears the minute somebody challenges your political view based on who you voted for president or based on who you voted for the governor, then that is not love. That is control. That is emotional coercion. And in many cases, that is immaturity dressed up like some form of conviction. So welcome to the O'Neill Perspective, where we talk power, politics, and policy in a way that is meant to educate, enlighten, and if the opportunity comes, it may even be entertaining. And so I am your host, Curtis O'Neill, and today we're going to begin a very important three-part series called The Return to Civility, Politics, Respect, and the Way Back. Now, this first episode is about how we got here, how disagreement became demonization, how debate became distancing, and how too many people now treat a different opinion like a personal betrayal. There was a time when disagreement was considered healthy. Some of you guys may remember this. I, in fact, do. When I was growing up, back in the 1980s, as a high school student, debate, as you know, was encouraged. You were expected to think. You were expected to defend your point. You were expected to listen to another argument and then later answer it. That was, in fact, the part of learning. That was the part of maturity. But somewhere along the line, we stopped teaching people how to debate and we started training people how to react. Now, people hear something that they don't agree with or they don't like, and instead of asking the question, why do you believe that? They jump straight to, what's wrong with you? Now, that's a dangerous shift. Because once a culture stops valuing debate, it starts rewarding emotional intimidation. And what makes it worse is this. You see, for many people, politics is no longer just about policy. I say that again. For many people, politics is no longer just about policy. It has become their personal identity. It has become shrouded in emotional survival. It has become a place where people go to feel seen and often heard. A lot of people feel powerless in their everyday lives. Yes, they do. Some may even feel overlooked, Some feel dismissed. Some feel pushed aside. Some feel like their voice does not matter in their job, in their family, in their community, or in the broader culture that we currently live in. And when that person puts out a political opinion and it suddenly gets some likes, it gets some reposts, it gets a little bit of applause, some thumbs up, some agreement, and then some digital support, oh man, let me tell you, the Frankenstein monster has been created. And that support can feel bigger than politics itself. It can feel like worth. It can feel like validation. It can even feel like finally somebody hears me and finally somebody sees me. And for some people who feel marginalized because of race, gender, sexuality, class, or live with experiences probably experienced back in high school when they felt ostracized. They were not good enough for sports, not good enough to hang with the popular kids. Oh yeah, those experiences. Politics can become deeply, deeply emotional. Yes. So when somebody disagrees with them, it does not always feel like simple disagreement. No, there's a replay in terms of what may have transpired in their past. And it sometimes comes across as rejection. Sometimes it feels like disrespect. Sometimes it feels like erasure. And I'm not talking about the old 1980s roots for some of you 1980 heads out there. No, I feel like they're being erased. Now, let me be clear. That does not justify bad behavior. That does not justify disrespect, but it does help explain why so many political conversations today become heated so quickly. Because people are not just arguing, about ideas anymore. A lot of people are defending their pain, defending pride, defending identity, defending the need to feel seen and heard. And I think that's so important to know. Because again, like I said, this is not about ideas or policy. This is really about people and who they are, or what has become lost in the fire. And that one reason relationships are breaking under the pressure of politics, like we've heard before in the past. Families stop talking because of who they voted for for the presidency or the governor. Friends stop calling because of who that particular person supported. People are cut off by their siblings and their cousins and longtime friends and church members and co-workers, all because they cannot handle the emotional discomfort of political differences. What may be important to me may not be important to you. That's politics. That is policy. It may be important for you to have the roads done. It may be important for someone else to focus on education. That's politics. That is policy. And that's not healthy civic behavior. A democratic society is supposed to make room for disagreement, not agreement on everything, not forced conformity, not emotional blackmail, disagreement. Because if people cannot disagree without destroying the relationship, then the issue is bigger than politics. I'm going to tell you like this. The issue is really about character. And let me say something else. A lot of what we're seeing is not courage. Yes. No, it's not courage. It's about control. There are people who basically say, agree with me or lose access to me. Think like I think or I will shame you. Repeat the right script or I will question your decency. That is not civic maturity. There are a lot of shows that are on TV now, especially during the daytime, that I see this repeated quite often. And if we're all truthful, it is quite encouraged. Again, that is not civic maturity. That is not love. That is controlling behavior dressed up as political passion. You see, real conviction does not need to bully people. Real conviction can stand on truth without humiliating others. Now, why does that matter? Because democracy depends on the ability to disagree. You see, every disagreement becomes betrayal. Then honest conversation dies. If honest conversation dies, then only performance remains. And when only performance remains, then truth becomes harder to find. We need people who think. We need people who can challenge one another. We need people who can say, I strongly disagree with you on that, but I still respect your humanity. Now, that is not weakness. That is discipline. That is maturity. That is civic courage. So, before I close this particular episode, I want to offer a short biblical perspective. And please hear me out. This is not to preach at you, but to add another layer to this particular conversation. You see, from a biblical perspective, disagreement is not the sin. You see, I'm going to say that again. Disagreement is not the sin. You see, contempt is. The Bible does not say we have to agree with everybody. But it does say we are responsible for how we speak, how we carry ourselves, how we treat people. You see, the Holy Scripture tells us to speak the truth in love. It tells us to be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath, meaning anger. It reminds us that the fruit of the Spirit includes self-control, gentleness, patience, and peace. And in the past, believers were called to stand for truth with grace. In the present, too many people think anger proves strength. But from a spirit-filled perspective, self-control is strength. Gentleness is not weakness. And if we do not recover that in the future, we will keep teaching the next generation that being loud and boisterous is the right way and the right thing, and doing the same things is right. No, it's not. You see, real maturity is learning how to stand on truth without losing your character, losing who you are. So what do we do with all of this? First, we need to stop assuming that disagreement equals disrespect. Second, let people finish their thoughts before you start judging their motives. Third, challenge ideas without attacking the person's identity. Fourth, ask yourself whether you are trying to persuade somebody or, in fact, punish them. And lastly, we need to remember that in a free society, being heard is not the same thing as being obeyed. So, here is the question for this episode. Can you disagree with somebody without trying to destroy the relationship? Because if you cannot, then the problem may not just be politics. The problem may be our culture. And that part of culture may be even us. So, in closing, I want to remind you to please be sure to visit the O'Neill Perspective Podcast website, to contact us, to share your commentary, and let us know what topics you would like for us to cover in future episodes. And if you, in fact, have a story, a perspective, or expertise that can add value to the conversation, please feel free to reach out and let us know if we would like or you would like to be a guest on the show. So I want you to know that just don't hear the conversation, okay? I want you to deepen the conversation. And with that being said, I want you to go out and get my copy of Breaking the Change that is on Amazon today. It is a book that is regarding the advocacy for African American politics, and it digs deep into both political parties and both political philosophies. And so I want you to go out and get your copy today. As I mentioned, it is on Amazon. So in the next episodes, we're going to go a little bit deeper into mob mentality. We're going to talk a little bit about social media bullying, keyboard courage, and how online culture is making political discourse even more toxic by the day. So until next time, I want you all to stay thoughtful. I want you all to stay grounded. And again, I want you all to please stay engaged. Talk soon. God bless.
That's all for today's episode of The O'Neill Perspective, Politics, Power, and Policy. I hope you learned something new, got inspired, and maybe had a little fun along the way. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and join us next time for more thought-provoking conversations. Until then, stay informed and stay empowered.